generation.
Dates in the Bible don't quite match the marriage certificate. Uh-oh. And welcome to America's Family History Show, Extreme Genes and ExtremeGenes.com. It is Fisher here, your radio root sleuth, on the program where we shake your family tree and watch the nuts fall out. And I'm very excited about today's guest because we got two very unique people. Dan Dixie, he's a guy from Maine, and we talked about him last week on the show as he became the recipient of what they call a mourning ring, a ring that was created to commemorate the death of an ancestor or a relative way back in the day. And you're going to want to hear how he got this, how old it is, what it commemorates. It's fascinating stuff coming up in about 10 minutes. And then later on in the show, one of America's great genealogical bloggers, Amy Johnson Crow. And she started something a few years ago that she continues to this day that is inspiring people to blog about their people. And the stories that are coming out of this project are just incredible. She's going to share some of those with us as well. That's coming up later on in the show. Hey, just a reminder, by the way, if you're coming to the Federation of Genealogical Society conference in Indiana coming up in August, I'm looking forward to seeing you there. I'm going to be the keynote speaker on Wednesday morning, actually kicking off the conference, and then later wrapping it up with a class on Saturday afternoon. So that's going to be a lot of fun in Fort Wayne, Indiana. If you haven't signed up yet, you want to get to that. And speaking of sign-ups, if you haven't gotten our free weekly Genie newsletter sign up yet, you can do that through our Facebook page or at ExtremeGenes.com. All right, let's head out to Beantown right now. Boston, Massachusetts, my good friend David Allen Lambert, the chief genealogist of the New England Historic Genealogical Society. David, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great. I'm looking forward to seeing you about 8 weeks from now or so out at FGS. I'm giving a couple of talks, and I see that your keynote, so I know where I'll be on Wednesday.
It is going to be a good time. By the way, I got to tell you, I had a score last night. It was on eBay. It's what they call a trade card. It was like a card that commemorated a business from back in the 1890s, and it happens to be from the Fisher family. It's a spice and coffee business card with a picture of a little boy, and he looks like he's sitting on a treasure chest or something. And I picked it up on eBay, and it's my grandfather's first cousin, my first cousin twice removed. So it's going to be very interesting to see what's on the back of this thing, which usually gives the history of these businesses. And all the Fishers were in that business, including my great-grandfather, so it's going to be great to get this. I can't believe it was out there, 126 years old.
Well, I think sometimes these artifacts find their way to us in very serendipitous ways.
You're absolutely right. Well, it was Ron Fox, the photo expert, stumbled upon it, and I won't even get into how or why, but he did and said, hey, you might want to look at this. It's like, holy cow, I had no idea. So
Ron's your personal shopper now.
Yeah, Ron's my personal shopper now. There you go. All right, let's move on with our Family Histoire news. Where do we start, David?
Well, I'll tell you, talk about finding things. Denise Janicki and Linda Jordans have discovered back in 1945, somebody picked up the wrong baby. Another case of switched at birth.
Oh, my gosh.
This happened at the Bethesda Hospital in St. Paul, Minnesota, and a random DNA test has revealed that they've been living separate lives for years. It really does make you want to take a DNA test if you haven't, just to be sure.
Really?
Mom and Dad are your parents.
Would you want to know? Would you want to know these women are in their 70s, right? And so they've been living out each other's lives, which is just insane. And now they know that. Has it affected them in a negative or a positive way?
I don't know. It sounds like one or two of them for a guest appearance on Extreme Genes is probably going to be necessary.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to see if we can't track these people down. Unbelievable.
You know, it's not just Americans that are interested in their past. It's becoming a global obsession. In fact, young Chinese are turning to commercial genetic testing firms to help determine where they came from. So, you know, their ancient origins and the autosomal DNA gives us a picture into things that we may have not thought we had.
Interesting. So they're trying to find out where in China or Asia they came from originally.
Exactly. I'll tell you, one of our best crops in New England, as you know from being from Connecticut, is stone.
Yeah.
It's everywhere. The glaciers have given us these lovely presents, which are lovely when you're cutting your lawn, but the farmers had the same problem. What did they do? They picked them up and made walls. Thousands of miles of walls. And there's the great story that will be on Extreme Genes website you can look at that talks about the crisscross of these stones.
And the author wrote about the fact that each stone that's on one of these walls is basically an individual act, possibly by a farmer or an African slave or by a Native American slave.
My backyard has a stone wall that separates the border of two properties from 1732. And now they're protected. On my town, you can't touch an old stone wall. And if it is touched, you have to rebuild it.
Oh, no.
Like if you have to break through. Yeah.
Wow.
That's an arduous task. Well, let's see. Our next story goes a little deeper. This time it is the Golden State Killer. Well, apparently now, based on DNA, 2 of the victims he has been accused out of the 12 he has been cleared of. And our good friend Cece Moore was on Fox News talking about it.
Well, she was talking about this idea of GEDmatch and DNA, and you can see the link to her appearance there at extremegenes.com. Interesting, though, I think people are thinking, oh, they cleared the Golden State Killer and he was accused because of the DNA. No, he's been cleared of 2 because I think they were associating those 2 with the pattern of the Golden State Killer, and that they obviously nabbed him through his DNA that was found at the sites of other murders. So he's still up on charges for 10 other murders.
Well, each week I like to throw out a blogger spotlight. This one I'm going really far across the pond to Norway, where Dag T. Hoelseth has his blog, dagtho.blogspot.com. Dag likes to talk about royalty and genealogy. Specifically, he's been blogging about Prince Frederick of Denmark's 50th birthday celebration and giving his lineage. So if you think you have Danish or Norwegian ancestry and may have a royal connection, take a peek at Dag's blog. Well, that's all I have from Beantown this week for you, Fish. And as usual, if you're not a member of American Ancestors, the New England Historic Genealogical Society welcomes you to use the Extreme code when you check out and save $20.
Very nice. All right. Thanks so much, David. We'll talk to you next week. And coming up next, we're going to talk to a guy we talked about last week, Dan Dixie. He's a Maine resident. He's from Marblehead, Massachusetts originally, and he recently obtained an ancestral item dating back 281 years. How did he get it? What's it all about? You're going to be amazed by this story. It's on the way in 3 minutes on Extreme Genes, America's Family History Show.
Legacy Tree Genealogist is a proud sponsor of Extreme Genes. Based in Salt Lake City, Utah, near the world's largest family history library, we've worked with genealogists all over the globe since 2004 to track down records, find your ancestors, and the stories that bring your legacy to life. We also analyze DNA test results, help you join lineage societies, and find missing cousins. Legacy Tree is the recommended research partner of MyHeritage.com and is the world's highest client-rated genealogy firm. Call us toll-free at 1-800-818-1476 or register online to get a free estimate. Right now, you can save up to $100 on professional genealogy research. But hurry, this offer expires at the end of the month. Even experienced researchers can benefit from our proven and experienced staff of specialists who can bring new approaches to old problems. Learn from our free genealogy tips on our blog at legacytree.com/blog. Legacy Tree Genealogists. We do the research. You enjoy the discoveries.
Did you know that Family Search Family Tree is available through a powerful new mobile app experience? That's right. Now you can view, edit, and even add information to ancestors in your family tree whenever and wherever you are. You no longer need to wait to get home or make a date with your computer to view or update your family tree. You can add details to your tree when visiting with family or when capturing details from a trip to the cemetery. You can share new family history discoveries from classroom settings. You can even make the most of your time when waiting for doctor appointments or car repairs. Get started today by downloading the free Family Search Family Tree app to your Apple or Android device. Visit familysearch.org/tree app to get the Family Tree app for free. Exploring and expanding your family tree has never been more convenient. Visit familysearch.org/tree app to download the Family Search Family Tree mobile app today.
Hey, Genies, Fisher here with a shout out to our Patrons Club members at patreon.com/Extreme Genes. This is where friends of the show support Extreme Genes for as little as $1 a month, all the way up to the cost of a very nice burger each month. I mean, a really juicy one. You can support the show and enjoy various special Patrons Club member benefits, such as acknowledgement on extremegenes.com, special bonus podcasts from expert guests like Maureen Taylor, the photo detective, C.C. Moore, your genetic genealogist, great storytellers and experts on record sets from all over the world. We even offer expert advice on specific questions challenging your research. So go to patreon.com/extremegenes and get signed up. We love sharing your genealogical journey with you on our Extreme Genes Patrons Club. After all, what would you rather have? Inspiring and informative content or another greasy burger? The choice is yours. And thanks for supporting Extreme Genes. And welcome back. It is Extreme Genes, America's Family History Show, and ExtremeGenes.com. Fisher here, your radio root sleuth. And this segment is brought to you by Legacy Tree Genealogists at LegacyTree.com. You know, it's always fun to celebrate people's big discoveries and big finds in family history. And I don't know that I've ever heard of one that's any better than the one we're about to talk about. My guest today is a man named Dan Dixie. He's up in Maine. He's a native of Marblehead, Massachusetts. What is it, 12 generations, Dan?
Yeah, 12 generations of Dixies in Marblehead.
Wow. Going back to who? Who was the original Dixie?
Well, the first Dixie in Marblehead was a Thomas Dixie. He arrived in the Salem, Marblehead area around 1636, and he ran a ferry. He actually rowed a ferry across Salem Harbor between Marblehead and Salem for a number of years. He was the first Marblehead Dixie.
And then you guys have just stayed there for all these generations. Now, you've left to go to Maine, but of course, you still left family behind, I assume?
Yes. It's still family, and I still have a small plot of land there that I'm not in a rush to move back to in the cemetery. But yeah, the family stayed, which made the family tree search a little bit easy because on the Dixie side, there were 11 generations from Thomas born in Marblehead.
Now, you've researched the Dixies forever. You're obviously a very engaged genealogist for your family, but you're also kind of a big historian for Marblehead. What do you collect?
Well, images are the big thing that I like to collect. I mean, I have 1,000 old glass negatives from the late 1800s, slides, Marblehead books, and just any kind of history that I could come across doing my research. It all started when I started doing the family tree, and it tied into what I was doing anyways, and I had a dark room in my basement, so I was able to print, these glass negatives and bring old Marblehead alive again.
Isn't that amazing? I found it the same for me. I didn't like history at all when I was a kid, but when I started family history, everything changed because suddenly I was tied to it somehow. I think that's what makes the big difference.
Yeah, it seems as you get older, you get interested in that. And ironically, we moved up to right next to Naugus Head. Before I did any of my research, my wife got me a Marblehead book for Christmas, and I started reading. I saw the Dixie name, and that's where it all started. And this was almost 35 years ago. It turns out the window that I looked out where I was doing my research was looking out where the ferry ran in 1644 that my ninth great-grandfather was rowing it back and forth. I'm staring at Naugus Head, which is where the Dixies lived from the 1600s into the 1700s.
That's crazy.
And I knew none of that until I had moved up there.
Made a big difference, didn't it? So
it sure did.
Let's talk about this most recent addition to your collection. And I think this is an incredible story because it really goes back 281 years, but then there was a little stop-off in 1949. So let's just start there. We had a family that was working in a garden, I guess it was, in Marblehead or in the area of Marblehead. And something glitters in the garden. You kind of pick it up from there, Dan.
Yeah, it was May 28th, 1949. This gentleman, John Griffiths, lived on Naugus Head, which is a section of Marblehead, the section where the Dixies lived back in the 16s and 1700s. Working in his garden, and he saw something shiny. He picked it up, and it was a gold ring. it actually had an inscription in it, which he could make out most of it, and it had a date of 1737, which caught his attention. And he went to some local historians and museums, and they were able to trace this back. It was a mourning ring, which was customary to get in memory of somebody when they died, and it was for John Dixie, who died August 22nd, 1737.
Now, he's your direct ancestor, is he not?
Well, he's my 9th great-grand-uncle.
Okay.
This John Dixie did not have any children. His brother Samuel is my 8th great-grandfather.
Got it. When they don't have the kids, you figure, well, then you're the inheritor of those things, right?
Well, yeah, and I actually have a copy of his will. It's something that somebody had typed up after doing the research of John's will, and he favored his nephews that all lived right in the neighborhood. They all lived in that Nagas Head area.
And typically, as I understand it, in wills, sometimes people mention a certain amount of money they want to leave aside to create mourning rings. And was there any mention of that in his will?
There was no mention of getting a mourning ring in the will. So who had the ring made, who was wearing it, who owned it, I'm sure we'll never know for sure. I assume it was probably one of the nephews.
Sure. You got to wonder how many of them were out there, though, right? Did they make just one, do you think?
Yeah, well, on the front of the ring, the inside inscription is, you can read it very well. You hold it up to the light, you can make out everything. On the front of the ring, it's a little bit worn and scratched, but there's two distinct kind of dots, little indents that were obviously put there. They weren't nicks in the thing. And I'm wondering, was there 2, 3, 4 rings and they put a 1 dot on one and 2 on the other? It's only speculation.
Sure. And
my research has just begun. I mean, we're talking 3 weeks ago when this ring resurfaced and 2 weeks ago when I got it. So it's still I'm still waiting to wake up in the morning and tell my wife about the dream I just had about it.
I couldn't have slept for 3 weeks after something like this. So let's just run through the story here. So the Griffiths found this in 1949. And I'm assuming the guy who found it is no longer with us, but it remained in their family.
Yes, John Griffiths found it. In fact, I have the original newspaper clipping from 1949. They put it in the paper and all the information. And he took it and he actually put it in this little tiny plastic case he had and tucked it away in his belongings. Now, I met him because that's the neighborhood that we ended up moving to in 1984.
Huh.
He never mentioned the ring to me, but he had found it 40 years earlier.
He probably
and maybe
didn't even think of it anymore, you know?
Yeah, I'm sure he didn't. And he had mentioned it to his daughter, but she never saw the ring. So John passed away in 2002. And I ran into her, it might have been 4 or 5 years ago at some social event in Marblehead. And she told me, she says, my father mentioned something about a mourning ring that was related to a Dixie at one time. I'm going to see if I can find it. And she never came across it. I know John, like me, collected a lot of stuff, and he had boxes and boxes and boxes, and it's a small ring. And then on May 28th of this year, keep in mind, May 28th, 1949 is when her father found it. On May 28th, which was just a few weeks ago, she was going through a box. She found the newspaper clip, and she's looking at it, and she says underneath it was a plastic box, and she picked it up, and there was the ring. So that was the first time she had even seen the ring. She had heard about it, but when she talked to me about it, I had no idea that it went back that far or what it really was. And you sort of, in the back of your mind, you're saying, oh, maybe this is from one of the early generations of Marblehead Dixies, but you never imagined it was really, really going to be from that time period.
That's unbelievable. So she tracks you down and says, oh, by the way, Dan, guess what? I found it.
Yes, I've been in contact with her. I published a book with all my old Marblehead stuff just in November, and she had bought several books for Christmas presents. So we were emailing back and forth about that. And I mentioned to her just earlier this year, I says, oh, did you ever find that ring? And she says, no, I never did. And she thought it was probably lost. So when she found it, she had my email address, and she couldn't wait to email me and say, guess what I found? And she gave me the information on the John, and I saw that information. As soon as I got the John Dixie died in 1737, without even taking out my papers, I said, I just talked about him in a lecture I did in Marblehead in April because he named the Nog's Head area. I said he was married to Sarah Collins and he lived next to Samuel, and I know as much about that family as I do about my great-grandparents' family. So she was very excited to find it and to talk to me about it. And when I told her who the John was, she says, I want to give it to you.
Oh, and you said immediately, oh, no, I couldn't possibly take that.
I think, when I took my jar off the floor, I said, did I hear what she just said? And like I say, it still hasn't completely sunk in. And I mean, I have the ring in my possession now, and it's just a crazy turn.
That reminds me when I got Joe DiMaggio to sign a baseball for me when I was 13 years old, and I'd wake up at 3 a.m. to look at the ball because it was like it was touched by the gods. That's
what happened when I went down. We did several television interviews down in Marblehead, so I drove down. I had it in my pocket. I mean, I'd stop at a rest area. I'd reach in and feel it to make sure the case was in my pocket, and then I'd take it out and open it just to see if the ring was really there.
It's unbelievable. It's got his initials in it. The date. Was it the date of death or the date of burial?
It was the date of death, which I already had that in my family tree program. So it had the initials JD. I think it was an O and a B, and then it said 22 August 1737, which is the day he died. Then it said AE, which I guess stands for aged of 85. He was 85.
Wow.
And then there was the silversmith or goldsmith mark was a TS stamped in it, which I'm still researching to figure out maybe who made the ring. And it's funny, in my genealogy program he was baptized, I think it was in 1657, but you never knew when they were born when you can only find the baptism date, because they could have been 6 months old, they could have been 10 years old, but he was 85 when he died, so he was born in 1652. So it gave me another piece to add into my family tree program.
How incredible is that? He's Dan Dixie. Yeah. He's a native of Marblehead, Massachusetts, lives in Maine now, and just got one of the greatest genealogical scores I think anybody could get.
It's crazy.
Thanks for joining us and sharing your story, Dan.
Okay, well, thanks for having me and talking to me about it.
You know, this is the thing. You just don't know what's out there. And I think Dan's story really illustrates the fact that you could have something like this happen to you at some point in your journey as well. All right, coming up next, we're going to talk to a well-known blogger named Amy Johnson Crow. And Amy's been doing a thing about 52 ancestors in 52 weeks. Incredible stories. You're going to want to hear it coming up next on Extreme Genes.
Looking for an easy way to show off your family history and share it with your family? Family Chartmasters offers beautiful custom pedigree art pieces and inexpensive family reunion draft charts in any design or size that fits your needs. With a free consultation at FamilyChartmasters.com, you can get started creating a new family masterpiece. Family Chartmasters has over 11 years of experience in creating and printing family charts. They can print any style of genealogy chart from any genealogy file and can create exactly what you're looking for. You'll work with a specialized and talented consultant whose goal is to make you happy. Decorative charts make fantastic gifts for all occasions. And with Family Chartmasters' option of ordering duplicate charts at half price along with your original purchase at full price, you can afford to give a family heirloom to each member of your family. Contact Family Chartmasters today at FamilyChartmasters.com for your free consultation. Family Chartmasters will give the greatest care to your family history. Scientific studies have proven that youth who know even a little bit about their family history perform better academically and have a greater sense of personal confidence and stability. Genealogy is its own incredible superpower that arms our children with super strength. But how do you get your child or grandchild interested in studying their family history? That kind of stuff is just for grandmas, right? Not anymore. ZapTheGrandmaGap.com leaps the generation gap in a single bound. Author Janet Havorka provides you with useful and timely advice on helping the young people in your life become engaged in their own family history. Janet has an entire collection of books to inspire the young and the young at heart in fun, interactive ways. She also offers creative tips and advice on her blog and in her free weekly newsletter. Stop by zapthegrandmagap.com today to sign up for Janet's free email newsletter with 52 weeks of easy tips, free downloads, and order your set of resource books and workbooks.
Welcome back. It's America's Family History Show, Extreme Genes and ExtremeGenes.com. It is Fisher here. And here's a lady I have never met, and I've known of her great work for a long, long time. We have a lot of mutual friends, and I'm delighted to have Amy Johnson Crow on the show, one of the nation's great bloggers in the family history area. And you can go see her work at amyjohnsoncrow.com. Welcome to Extreme Genes. Finally, Amy.
Well, thank you for having me here, Scott. This is great.
Well, you've got a great thing going on right now that's getting a lot of talk, and you've done this several times over the last few years, and I wanted to hear what started all this. 52 ancestors in 52 weeks, and the stories keep rolling in.
Yeah, this is actually the third time around for the 52 Ancestors in 52 Weeks project. I did the original one back in, I think it was 2014. And I did it as a way to kind of jumpstart my own blog because, when you're blogging, it's important to be consistent. I thought, okay, if I devote myself to writing about one ancestor a week, that'll give me one blog post a week. Okay, I can handle that. So I'd originally just put it out there as a way to make myself accountable to my readers.
Nice.
Yeah, and suddenly it just kind of snowballed from there, and people were like, hey, I want to do that too. I want to do that too. So the original one, it was just kind of a free-for-all. You just wrote about whoever, and that was great. But then I started hearing from people who wanted a little bit more structure, which I could totally get. Because
sure.
Because back in school, I was that kid who actually enjoyed doing term papers, but I hated coming up with a topic. It's like, I'll write about anything. Just tell me what to write about.
Yeah, tell me what to write about. Well, that is an issue we see with people trying to write histories, and we get that question all the time. I'm sure you do, too. How do you go about it? Well, there's so many ways. You can do it chronologically. You can do it by generation. But I think topically, you can get an awful lot more out of it.
Yeah, and what I found with the prompts that I did before and the prompts that I have again this year, they're different sets of prompts, just having sort of a vague prompt. And it gets people thinking. Like, I had a prompt back in January, and the prompt was longevity.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Yeah. And I thought, okay, well, that'll get people looking in their family tree to see which ancestor lived the longest.
Right.
Or what ancestral couple had been married a really, really long time. Well, there was a man by the name of Joseph Ditta who did a post about a long-lived soup recipe. The soup recipe has been passed down in his family just for years and years and years. And he wrote about that. And I thought, that's fabulous.
Yeah.
It was just enough to get him thinking about it, and he wrote about this soup recipe that maybe nobody had really thought about, or nobody had really thought about how cool it was if they'd had this soup recipe for decades and decades.
Well, if you think about over generations, potentially the people way back when tasted the same thing that you're tasting when you cook up that recipe, right? Exactly.
And it's been interesting to see just how the different prompts have been interpreted. We recently had the prompt for Father's Day. And a lot of people, of course, wrote about their own father or wrote about a grandfather. A woman who was taking part in the project, she wrote about a series of letters that her father wrote home when he was a teenager, and he was backpacking through Europe. And it was this whole side of her dad that she had never seen before.
Really?
Including, you don't think about your dad being a teenager backpacking through Europe and stealing beer steins from Hofbrauhaus in Munich.
Yeah, I wonder if she still has that stein.
No, actually, she included this in her blog post. Nobody in the family knew the history of that beer stein. So when her father passed away and they're breaking down the house and they had the yard sale, they sold it.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
I know. It's gone. The beer sign is gone, but the story remains.
The story remains, and that's the most important thing. Yeah, I'm very excited because, as you know, I'm doing a keynote speech at FGS coming up in August on the importance of story. And what you're doing is so significant because it gives people that taproot into their deep family history. And I just love hearing them. You got another one for us.
Well, you know, there was a prompt that I had done earlier this year, and it was maiden aunt.
Maiden aunt.
And we think about the maiden aunts in the family, you know, those aunts that they were never married, they never had children.
Right.
Well, we know as genealogists that they can be important as ways to research our family because there could be records about them that ties everything else together. So, you know, we need to pay attention to them. So I thought, okay, well, let's do a prompt and focus on maiden aunts. Well, this one woman, her name is Mary Hannah, and she found this incredible story about her aunt and how she was a very strong woman back in the 1800s and all the different things that she did that you wouldn't expect a woman then to do. Yeah, there was another woman who wrote about, I think it was like a third grade aunt or something like that, who she discovered this cache of letters and found out that not only was her third grade aunt a nurse in World War I, but this cache of letters was between her and a soldier that she had befriended in the hospital. And just this really sweet relationship that the two of them had. And it just brought so much life to somebody that, you know, she never married, never had children, but this cache of letters really brought her to life.
And, you know, as you went through those stories about maiden aunt, it triggered a thought in my mind about one of mine. And I'm not going to go into it. But the point is, I'm sure there are people listening right now as you throw out these prompts who immediately have a story that they could be sharing back with us. Yeah,
exactly. And I try to keep the prompts vague on purpose so that it's just enough to spark some ideas, but yet it's not so rigid that, you know, it has to be this.
Right, right.
And what I've been hearing from people who have been doing the project, in fact, I heard from one person just yesterday who said that they have been sharing their blog posts with their family members, emailing them to cousins and, you know, posting them on Facebook or whatever. And there was this one story. She said it was getting really, really long, so she decided to cut the blog post short because she was afraid it was getting too long. Well, she got this email from one of her cousins saying, well, where's the rest of the story? and that's just like music to any genealogist's ears.
Yeah.
You know, when you have these cousins who previously had shown no interest really in the genealogy, but suddenly they're wanting to know more. It doesn't get any better than that.
Oh, no, I've been mocked by my brother over Thanksgiving dinners over all the stuff I do and all the stuff I know for years. But then I'll get that call like at 11:30 at night. Hey, Scott, what was that story about Dad when he, you know, and it's just like, now you're interested, huh?
Exactly.
Wow. Well, this sounds like a great ongoing thing for you, Amy. Third year around now, and you just started in 2014. You think you're going to just keep this going forevermore?
Well, I don't know about forevermore, but yeah, we're going strong right now. And one thing about it, when people do sign up for the project to receive the prompts, I give them the prompts for the month ahead of time. You know, because some people do like to prepare, and then some people are like, that prompt doesn't really speak to me, but that one coming up, that one I like.
Right, so, and they're going to pop something in there. So if people want to participate, where do they go?
I have a page set up for it at amyjohnsonCrow.com/52ancestors.
All right, amyjohnsonCrow.com/52ancestors. There's no E on the end of Crow. It's like the bird.
Exactly.
Right. Well, she's one of America's great bloggers in genealogy, and you can tell why, because she's going to give you a lot of fun, a lot of great opportunity to share some of your stories right there. Thanks so much, Amy. It's great to finally meet you after all this time, and I appreciate your stories and your insight.
Well, thank you so much for having me and letting me talk about 52 ancestors.
Tom Perry is going to talk preservation coming up next on Extreme Genes, America's Family History Show, in 3 minutes.
Legacy Tree Genealogist is a proud sponsor of Extreme Genes. Based in Salt Lake City, Utah, near the world's largest family history library, we've worked with genealogists all over the globe since 2004 to track down records, find your ancestors, and the stories that bring your legacy to life. We also analyze DNA test results, help you join lineage societies, and find missing cousins. Legacy Tree is the recommended research partner of MyHeritage.com and is the world's highest client-rated genealogy firm. Call us toll-free at 1-800-818-1476 or register online to get a free estimate. Right now, you can save up to $100 on professional genealogy research. But hurry, this offer expires at the end of the month. Even experienced researchers can benefit from our proven and experienced staff of specialists who can bring new approaches to old problems. Learn from our free genealogy tips on our blog at legacytree.com/blog. Legacy Tree Genealogists. We do the research. You enjoy the discoveries.
Did you know that Family Search Family Tree is available through a powerful new mobile app experience? That's right. Now you can view, edit, and even add information to ancestors in your family tree whenever and wherever you are. You no longer need to wait to get home or make a date with your computer to view or update your family tree. You can add details to your tree when visiting with family or when capturing details from a trip to the cemetery. You can share new family history discoveries from classroom settings. You can even make the most of your time when waiting for doctor appointments or car repairs. Get started today by downloading the free Family Search Family Tree app to your Apple or Android device. Visit familysearch.org/tree app to get the Family Tree app for free. Exploring and expanding your family tree has never been more convenient. Visit familysearch.org/tree app to download the Family Search Family Tree mobile app today.
Hey, Genies, Fisher here with a shout out to our Patrons Club members at patreon.com/Extreme Genes. This is where friends of the show support Extreme Genes for as little as $1 a month, all the way up to the cost of a very nice burger each month. I mean, a really juicy one. You can support the show and enjoy various special Patrons Club member benefits, such as acknowledgement on extremegenes.com, special bonus podcasts from expert guests like Maureen Taylor, the photo detective, CC Moore, your genetic genealogist, great storytellers and experts on record sets from all over the world. We even offer expert advice on specific questions challenging your research. So go to patreon.com/Extreme Genes and get signed up. We love sharing your genealogical journey with you on our Extreme Genes Patrons Club. After all, what would you rather have? Inspiring and informative content or another greasy burger? The choice is yours. And thanks for supporting Extreme Genes. Welcome back. It is time to talk preservation on Extreme Genes, America's Family History Show, and extremegenes.com. Fisher here, your radio root sleuth. This segment is brought to you by FamilySearch.org. Tom Perry is here. He's our preservation authority from TMCplace.com. Hi, Tom. How are you?
I'm super duper, thank you.
So I had quite a week this past week. We had a little spare time, and so wife Julie and I started going through some of our Tyo-Uden discs that you digitized for us some time back of all our old videos. The thing is, there were so many of them, we haven't gotten the chance to fully document what's on each one and index them and create some kind of list that we can use to know what's where. But one thing we ran across that I didn't even know we had was video of me and my former morning radio show partner from years ago playing in a doubles tennis match with Jimmy Connors and Bjorn Borg.
Wow.
And this was back in 1992. I will tell you right now, it was horrible. And it was just a really weird thing to look across the court and see Bjorn Borg getting ready to receive my serve. It was just like, really? And watching the video, it was as horrible as I remembered it. Nonetheless, I did get to do this. And so we were thinking, this would be a great little segment to remove from that and mix with photographs we had of it and turn that into some kind of slideshow or video or whatever that we could have, separate from all this stuff. You got to break these things out so that you can keep track of them and share them.
Oh, absolutely. We get calls about this all the time, about slideshows. And the word slideshow is kind of just like Band-Aid nowadays.
Yeah.
It's just a word. So when you say slideshows, it can have photos, it can have video, it can have film, it can, of course, have slides. And it's really strange. We're getting to do more and more and more of these, having more and more interest, where you think this old stuff would kind of start fading. And the neat thing about it's not hard to do. Anybody that buys Wondershare can do this themselves very easily.
Yeah, that's right. And that's the beauty of it. Wondershare is only like, what, $50 or something like that?
It's by far the best value out there on the market, no question about it. And if you still have living relatives that are older than you, then what you need to do, you need to get down and start interviewing these people. Even if you don't have the slideshows done, let them look through the raw stuff and just talk about it, record them on your iPhone, your Android, and get this stuff done. So even if you don't get it finished for a year or 2 years and they're gone, you'll still have these voices that you can add to the photos and the video. And with Wondershare, it gives you so many tracks of audio. You can mix in all these different things. It makes it so simple and easy to use. And there's so much more fun to watch when you hear, Aunt Edna talking about who these people are and describing these different events. And some of these things are hilarious. Some of them are heartwarming. All these kind of things you need to get down. Like you say, you're going through and tagging all your videos. Get out a ledger pad and write down time. Say, okay, this one at this time and this time and this time, I love this clip and this. And just put a short description. So when you go back, you know right where they are. You can go right to them and don't have to load the entire disk into Wondershare.
One thing I learned here is we've got virtually every Christmas from when the kids were little, which is going to be a lot of fun, to put together over time. But it is amazing how much more stuff we have from holidays. And I think everybody's pretty much the same way. And here's a daughter of mine who's now 30 years old, 3 kids of her own. And we're watching her 5th birthday party. Actually the same age as her kids right now. And it's just so much fun to see.
In fact, a lot of people go the extra mile and they put these slideshows, quote unquote, together for each of their kids. And it's cool watching the highlights of them at each Christmas. And it's not like watching, an hour and an hour and an hour. The whole thing is maybe 30 minutes long. And it went from when they were an infant all the way up to their wedding day, and watch this metamorphosis from a little child to their wedding.
So, yeah, we got to put together the database ultimately so we can figure out what we have, because this is going to be a massive project at some point, but it's going to be a lot of fun. All right, Tom, when we return in 3 minutes, what do you want to talk about?
Let's talk about some more software out there where you can better organize your things, put them together, and make them living memories.
All right, we'll get to that when we return on Extreme Genes, America's Family History Show.
Looking for an easy way to show off your family history and share it with your family? Family Chartmasters offers beautiful custom pedigree art pieces and inexpensive family reunion draft charts in any design or size that fits your needs. With a free consultation at FamilyChartmasters.com, you can get started creating a new family masterpiece. Family Chartmasters has over 11 years of experience in creating and printing family charts. They can print any style genealogy chart from any genealogy file and can create exactly what you're looking for. You'll work with a specialized and talented consultant whose goal is to make you happy. Decorative charts make fantastic gifts for all occasions. And with Family Chartmasters' option of ordering duplicate charts at half price along with your original purchase at full price, you can afford to give a family heirloom to each member of your family. Contact Family Chartmasters today at FamilyChartmasters.com for your free consultation. Family Chartmasters will give the greatest care to your family history.
When was the last time you heard your grandmother's voice or saw your family enjoying life back in the 1950s or 60s? If the reason is you haven't known what to do with your old recordings, videos, and films, here's your answer. The Multimedia Center in Salt Lake City.
We brought in a video project to the Multimedia Center, and overnight they duplicated it to DVD so we could meet our deadline.
The Multimedia Center, 2870 East, 3300 South, Salt Lake City. Open Monday through Friday, 10 to 6. Call 801-483-1717 or go to transferduplication.com.
Genies, it's Fisher with exciting news. The Weekly Genie, the official newsletter of Extreme Genes, is here. It's your Monday morning briefing on what's happening in the world of genealogy and family history and on Extreme Genes. Get all the details of jaw-dropping stories of discovery and keep up with the latest techniques in family history research. Get to know more about your favorite Extreme Genes personalities, and it's free. Sign up for the Weekly Genie now at extremegenes.com or the Extreme Genes Facebook page. And when you do, you'll receive David Allen Lambert's Top 10 Tips for Beginning Genealogists from the Chief Genealogist of the New England Historic Genealogical Society. Sign up today for the Weekly Genie. right, we're talking preservation with Tom Perry from TMCplace.com on Extreme Genes, America's Family History Show, and ExtremeGenes.com. Fisher here, the radio root sleuth. And Tom, we've been talking about this slideshow concept, the idea of mixing photographs and videos and maybe a little voiceover from somebody from the past and putting together some amazing products that you can share with family reunions and gatherings over the holidays. What other bits of software out there that can help us with this?
Probably one of the best softwares out there that you have to have with Wondershare is Heritage Collector, which we've talked about before. Our mad professor, Marlowe.
Yeah.
He just has released a couple new modules that are really, really cool. Like some things that you can add to this, you would think, oh, this is going to be hard. But it's usually if you shot these photos with your iPhone, you already have it. It's called geo-tracking. So when you're watching the video of things like this, it can pop up and say, hey, we're in the cemetery looking at Aunt Gretel's grave. And it'll tell you exactly down within like 3 to 5 feet of exactly where that headstone is. If you ever want to go visit it, it'll tell you other places they've been, giving you more information about it. The geo-tracking is cool. It'll let you do QR codes that you can print out on a calendar. So you can actually have living memories. So all these slideshows that you're editing, you put them in the cloud, and then on the kid's birthday or whatever, they can go and click on the QR code, and there's, their mother as a little child growing up and going through these different stages. It makes it so fun for the kids to get involved with this. They can actually use their iPads and actually help create content. Maybe they can write down some stories of what they remember about Aunt Gretel. It's really interesting. Sometimes at these family reunions, you think the kids aren't paying attention, and they come up with these special moments that they had, memories that they have that you never even thought of. And so it's so important to think that, these are little kids, they don't know what's going on. No, they have some memories too, and they might actually jog your memory to remember, oh yeah, those things are really cool. So don't leave anybody out. Talk to all your kids. I don't care if they're 6 years old. Talk to them and see if they have any memories. Show them the photos, and maybe things will jog their mind to help you in creating your video.
Well, it's funny you mention that because I was just dealing with my granddaughter the other day. We were looking at a family book of photographs from 2015, and she was telling me all kinds of stories relating to these pictures when she was only about 3 years old.
Stuff like that is so precious to have. And the neat thing about this is when you're in Wondershare, you can go in and through all these audio tracks I mentioned, you can have one track for this child, one track for this child. And once you get it started, it's easy to do fade-ins, fade-outs, have the different kids talking about who this person is and what their special memories are. Maybe they were over there one day and made cookies or something with them, and they can talk about the excitement that they had, the things that they learned. So what you need to do with all these things once you get into Wondershare, you put all these things together, then you go into Heritage Collector and take these tidbits that you've made, and then that's how you add them to the QR codes and the calendars, greeting cards, and you scan them, and it brings up all these memories, all these little stories. They make great items for, family reunions. If you have like weekly or monthly get-togethers with your own family, it just adds such an entertainment value, and it's so easy to do. Anybody that has a computer and just very, very basic computer skills, Video Maker is a great magazine to go to for other resources. You want to definitely get Wondershare because the software is incredible. Heritage Collectors brings all the things together and actually helps you with tutorials. With YouTube out there now, it's amazing how you can find out how to do anything. So don't think that they're over your head. You'll be able to learn them really easy. The equipment they have nowadays is absolutely amazing.
All right, Tom. Well, thanks so much. That's a great idea, and I'm kind of inspired to try it. That looks like so much fun, and I'm really looking forward to putting together the first one.
Sounds like a lot of fun.
All right, Tom. Thanks so much. We'll talk to you again next week.
My pleasure.
Hey, there's always something new to play with, right? Hey, thanks for joining us. That is our show for this week. Just a reminder, if you haven't done so yet, sign up for our weekly Genie newsletter. It's absolutely free. It's got all kinds of links to great stories you will enjoy as an amateur genealogist and all kinds of great podcast links as well for other subjects. And don't forget to join me in Fort Wayne, Indiana, coming up in August for the FGS conference. I'm going to be a keynote speaker there on the first day on Wednesday. Talk to you next week, and remember, as far as everyone knows, we're a nice, normal family.